On my 74th birthday, I threw a party. Nobody came. Not my son, not my daughters-in-law, not even my grandchildren. That's when I saw my son post, "Away from problems, family time." I immediately sold all the family assets. When they came back, "I'm glad to have you here." Follow my story until the end and comment the city you're watching from, so I can see how far my story has reached. I'm Dennis, and at 64 years old, I thought I knew what loneliness felt like. I was wrong. The morning of my birthday started like any other. I woke up at 6 a.m., made my coffee, and sat in the kitchen reviewing my checklist one more time. Party starts at 2 p.m. Cake from Morrison's Bakery, the chocolate one my grandson Tommy loves. Sandwiches cut into triangles, just like my late wife used to make. I'd even bought those little paper napkins with "Happy Birthday" printed on them in gold letters. I spent 3 hours that morning arranging everything perfectly. The dining room table looked beautiful, if I do say so myself. Balloons tied to each chair, the good china set out for 8 people. My son Marcus, his wife Jennifer, their 2 kids, and Jennifer's parents who I'd grown fond of over the years. I even put out the fancy silverware that usually stays locked in the cabinet. The invitations had been sent 2 weeks ago. Not just texts, proper invitations on cardstock that I'd ordered online. Dennis Hartwell cordially invites you to celebrate his 64th birthday. I'd included all the details: date, time, address, even put a little note at the bottom asking people to RSVP so I'd know how much food to prepare. Nobody RSVP'd, but I figured that was normal. People are busy these days. By 1:30 p.m. I was showered, dressed in my best polo shirt, and ready. I kept checking my watch, then looking out the front window. Maybe they were running late. Traffic can be unpredictable on Sundays. 2 p.m. came and went, then 2:30. I told myself they were probably coordinating their arrival, maybe picking up a gift or stopping somewhere together. Families do that. At 3 p.m. I called Marcus, straight to voicemail. "Hey son, just checking if you're running late. No rush, just wanted to make sure everything's okay." 3:30 p.m. I called Jennifer, also voicemail. "Hi Jennifer, it's Dennis. Wondering if you got held up somewhere. Give me a call when you get this." By 4 p.m. I was sitting at the head of an empty dining room table, staring at 8 place settings and feeling like the biggest fool in Texas. The ice in the punch bowl had melted. The sandwiches were starting to curl at the edges. That's when I decided to check Facebook. Maybe there was some family emergency I didn't know about. Maybe someone was in the hospital. There had to be an explanation. I found it all right. Marcus had posted a photo 30 minutes earlier. The whole family, Jennifer, the kids, even her parents, were at some fancy resort. Palm trees in the background, everyone in swimming clothes, huge smiles. The caption read, "Needed this getaway. Long dos problemas. Family time. Away from problems. Family time." I stared at that phone screen until my eyes burned. There they were, the people I'd been waiting for, the people I'd prepared for, living their best life 2 states away, while I sat alone with wilted sandwiches and melted ice. I called Marcus again. This time he picked up. "Hey Dad, what's up?" His voice was cheerful, relaxed. I could hear water splashing in the background, children laughing. "It's my birthday, son." Silence. Then, Oh, Dad, I'm so sorry. We're in Florida. Jennifer booked this last-minute thing and..." "Last minute?" My voice sounded strange, even to me. "I sent invitations 2 weeks ago." "Yeah, about that. We've been so busy, and with Jennifer's work schedule, we just needed to get away. You understand, right?" "We'll make it up to you." "When? When what? When will you make it up to me?" Another pause. "Well, we're here until Thursday, and then Jennifer's got that conference next weekend, and the kids have soccer." I hung up. I sat there in that decorated dining room, surrounded by untouched food and empty chairs, and something inside me finally broke. Not my heart. That had been breaking for years in small, barely noticeable ways. Something deeper. Something that had been holding me together through decades of being taken for granted. I looked around at my house, the house I'd bought after Sarah died, thinking it would be perfect for hosting family gatherings. Big enough for everyone. Close to Marcus's work, good schools for the grandkids nearby. I'd chosen everything with them in mind. The grandfather clock in the hallway chimed 5 p.m. I should start cleaning up, I thought. Put the food away, take down the decorations, pretend this never happened. Instead, I took out my phone and scrolled through Marcus's Facebook page. Post after post of family vacations, dinners out, weekend trips, always the same faces. Marcus, Jennifer, the kids, her parents, sometimes Jennifer's sister and her family. I couldn't find a single photo of me from the past year. Not one. I kept scrolling back, looking for evidence that I existed in their lives beyond the checks I wrote and the problems I solved. 2 years back, I found one photo from Christmas morning. I was in the background, barely visible, while everyone else gathered around the tree opening presents I'd bought. The caption read, "Christmas magic with the people who matter most." I wasn't even tagged. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about that phrase, away from problems. Is that what I was to them? A problem to escape from? I got up and made myself a cup of tea, then sat in my study looking at old photo albums, pictures of Marcus as a baby, as a little boy, graduating high school, getting married, pictures of me teaching him to ride a bike, helping him build a treehouse, walking him down the aisle on his wedding day because his mother wasn't there to see it. When had I stopped being his father and become just an obligation? The birthday cake sat untouched on my kitchen counter, all 64 candles still in their package. I'd planned to light them when everyone arrived, maybe make a speech about how grateful I was for my family. Instead, I sat alone in my study at 2 a.m., finally understanding that I wasn't part of their family anymore. I was just the man who paid for it. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I did something I should have done years ago. I went through my financial records, box after box of bank statements, canceled checks, receipts. 37 years of being a father, and apparently 37 years of being a walking ATM. The numbers told a story I'd been too blind to see while I was living it. The pattern started early. When Marcus graduated college, I paid off his student loans. $47,000. "Just until I get on my feet, Dad," he'd said. "I'll pay you back." That was 12 years ago. Then came the down payment for his first house, $35,000. "It's an investment in our family's future," Jennifer had said, rubbing her pregnant belly. "The grandkids will love visiting Grandpa in this neighborhood." The grandkids, that's how they always framed it. Everything was for the grandkids. When Tommy needed surgery for his tonsils and their insurance didn't cover everything, I paid the $8,000 without question. When little Emma wanted to go to that expensive dance camp, I wrote a check for $2,500. When their air conditioning died in the middle of July, I bought them a new unit, $4,800. Car repairs, Christmas presents, birthday parties, school clothes, family vacations. The list went on and on. I added it up 3 times because I couldn't believe the number. $247,000 over 12 years, nearly $250,000. I sat back in my desk chair, staring at that figure. $250,000, and I couldn't get them to show up for a birthday party. But the money was just part of it. I remembered the phone calls, always when they needed something. "Dad, can you watch the kids this weekend? Jennifer's sister is getting married." "Dad, our babysitter canceled. Can you pick up Tommy from school?" "Dad, we need someone to let the repair guy in. Can you go over to our house around noon?" I was always available, always reliable. The emergency contact on school forms, the backup plan when their regular arrangements fell through, the solution to every problem that required either time or money. But when was the last time they'd asked how I was doing? I pulled out my phone and scrolled through our text conversations, page after page of requests. "Can you transfer $500 for the car repair?" "Emma needs new soccer cleats, $85. "Emergency at work. Can you get the kids from school?" My responses were always the same. "Of course." "No problem. On my way." Their responses were always brief. "Thanks. You're the best. Lifesaver." Never, "How are you, Dad?" Never, "Want to grab lunch this week?" Never, "The kids miss their grandpa." I found one conversation from last month that made my chest tight. Jennifer had texted asking if I could help with their mortgage payment because Marcus's commission check was delayed. I transferred $2,800 without hesitation. Her response was a simple thumbs-up emoji. That same week, I'd been in the emergency room with chest pains that turned out to be a panic attack. I'd driven myself there and back. Never mentioned it to anyone because I didn't want to worry them. They were busy with their own lives. Now I wondered if they would have worried at all. I kept digging through the records. Every major expense in their life had my fingerprints on it. When Marcus wanted to start his own consulting business, I'd co-signed a $50,000 business loan. When Jennifer decided she needed a more reliable car for driving the kids around, I'd covered the down payment and first 6 months of payments on her SUV. They lived in a beautiful 4-bedroom house in a neighborhood they couldn't actually afford. I'd been supplementing their mortgage for 3 years, telling myself it was temporary, that Marcus's business was just getting off the ground. The business was doing fine now. His social media was full of posts about client meetings, successful projects, weekend golf games with other business owners. But the mortgage supplements continued. I'd stopped thinking of them as loans and started thinking of them as part of my budget. I pulled up their mortgage information on my computer. Yes, I was still listed as a co-signer and backup payer. Their house was beautiful, worth about $380,000 in today's market. But they'd borrowed against it twice, using the equity for things like Jennifer's SUV and a family trip to Europe last year. That trip. I remembered that trip. They'd posted dozens of photos, museums, restaurants, the kids excited about everything they were seeing. I'd thought about how nice it was that they could give the children those experiences. I'd never thought about how they'd afforded it. Now I knew. They'd afforded it by borrowing against a house I was helping them pay for. I opened another box of records and found something that made me sick to my stomach. Last Christmas, Jennifer had asked me to contribute to the kids' college funds. "We want to make sure Tommy and Emma have opportunities we never had," she'd said. I'd set up automatic monthly transfers, $500 for Tommy, $400 for Emma. But there, in my banking records, were withdrawals from those same accounts, not for education. The memo lines told the real story. Transfer to checking, transfer to savings, account closure, transfer to personal account. They'd been using their children's college money for their own expenses. I called the bank the next morning to confirm what I was seeing. The accounts I'd been funding were linked to Marcus and Jennifer's personal accounts. Every dollar I'd contributed had been transferred out within days of my deposits. The customer service representative was matter of fact. "Yes, sir. As account holders, they have full access to transfer funds between accounts." I'd been funding their lifestyle for years, thinking I was investing in my grandchildren's future, while they were using that money for dinners out and weekend getaways. That afternoon, I did something I'd never done before. I drove by their house, my house really, since I was paying for it, and just watched. The lawn was perfect. The driveway had 2 cars, the SUV I'd helped buy and Marcus's newer sedan. Through the front window, I could see expensive furniture, a large TV, decorations that looked like they'd come from those upscale home goods stores Jennifer was always posting about. It was a beautiful life, a comfortable life, a life built entirely on my money while I sat alone in my own house, eating dinner for one every night and wondering why I felt so empty. As I sat there in my car, I realized something that should have been obvious years ago. They didn't love me. They loved what I could provide. I wasn't their father and grandfather. I was their financial safety net, their emergency fund, their solution to every problem that required money. And the cruel irony was that all that money I'd spent trying to buy their love had actually bought me nothing but their indifference. The easier I made their lives, the less they needed me personally. I drove home and looked around my house with new eyes. This house I'd bought to be closer to them. This house where I waited for phone calls that only came when they needed something. This house where I'd spent my 64th birthday alone because they were too busy enjoying the life I'd paid for to remember the man who'd made it possible. For the first time in years, I felt something other than disappointment and loneliness. I felt anger. The anger was like waking up from a long, foggy dream. For the first time in years, I felt clear-headed and purposeful. I spent the next 3 days going through every single financial document I could find, and what I discovered changed everything. I wasn't just helping my son's family. I was essentially funding their entire lifestyle while they treated me like an inconvenient stranger. On Tuesday morning, I called my attorney, Robert Chen. Rob had been handling my legal affairs since Sarah died, and he'd watched me make financial decision after financial decision that favored Marcus and Jennifer. He'd never said much about it, but I could tell he had opinions. "Dennis," he said when I walked into his office, "you look different. What's going on?" I set down a thick folder of documents on his desk. "I need you to review all of this and tell me exactly what I'm legally entitled to reclaim." Rob opened the folder and started scanning through the papers. His eyebrows rose higher with each page. "Dennis, what's brought this on?" I told him about the birthday party, about the Facebook posts, about years of being treated like a bank rather than a family member. Rob listened without interrupting, occasionally making notes on a legal pad. "I see," he said when I finished. "And you want to know your options regarding these financial arrangements?" "All of them." Rob spent the rest of our meeting explaining things I'd never bothered to understand, like how I was listed as the primary on Marcus and Jennifer's mortgage, which meant I had legal rights regarding that property. How the business loan I'd co-signed gave me partial ownership interest in Marcus's consulting firm. How the cars I'd helped finance were technically in my name until the loans were paid off. The house alone, Rob said, you've paid approximately $67,000 into that mortgage over the past 3 years. In most cases, that would establish a significant ownership interest. I stared at him. You mean I actually own part of their house? Potentially, yes. And the business, you co-signed for $50,000, but according to these records, you've also made several additional cash investments that Marcus categorized as loans. Legally, that could be considered equity investment, which would give you partnership rights. My head was spinning. What about the cars? Rob looked through more documents. The SUV title lists you as the primary owner with Jennifer as the secondary. Marcus's sedan is financed through a loan you guaranteed, and you've made 12 payments directly to the lender. So I could technically repossess their cars. The SUV, absolutely. The sedan would require some legal maneuvering, but yes, it's possible. I left Rob's office with a stack of papers to review and a list of steps I could take. But first, I wanted to understand the full scope of what I was dealing with. That afternoon, I drove to my bank and asked to speak with a financial advisor. Margaret Torres had been handling my accounts for 6 years, and she knew about all the transfers I'd been making to Marcus and Jennifer. Mr. Hartwell, she said, settling into her desk chair, what can I help you with today? I want to understand exactly how much money I've given my son's family over the past decade, and I want to know what options I have for protecting my remaining assets. Margaret pulled up my accounts on her computer. Are you concerned about elder financial abuse, Mr. Hartwell? I paused. Is that what this is? Well, she said carefully, when I see patterns of large, frequent transfers from an elderly client to family members, especially when those transfers seem to increase over time rather than decrease, it raises red flags. She pulled up a graph showing my account activity over the past 10 years. The pattern was stark. Regular outgoing transfers to Marcus and Jennifer that had started small and grown larger each year. What started as occasional $500, $1,000 transfers had become monthly payments of $3,000, $4,000. In the past year alone, Margaret said, you've transferred $38,000 to accounts associated with your son's family. That's not including the mortgage payments you make directly to the lender or the automatic transfers to what you believed were college savings accounts. I felt sick. How much in total? Margaret worked on her calculator for several minutes. Including all transfers, loan guarantees, direct payments, and investments, I estimate you've provided approximately $280,000 in financial support over the past decade. Nearly $300,000. I stared at that number until it stopped looking real. Mr. Hartwell, Margaret continued gently, I have to ask, are you making these transfers willingly, or do you feel pressured? I thought about that question. Had I felt pressured? Not exactly, but I'd never felt like I had a choice either. Every request came with an explanation of why they needed the money, why it was important for the grandchildren, why it was an emergency that couldn't wait. I thought I was helping family, I said finally. I understand, but help should go both ways. When was the last time your son helped you with anything? I couldn't answer that question because I couldn't remember the last time. Margaret walked me through several options for protecting my remaining assets. I could set up a trust, change my beneficiaries, create separate accounts that couldn't be accessed by anyone else. Most importantly, I could stop all the automatic transfers immediately. What would happen if I just stopped? I asked. Legally, nothing. These are your accounts, your money. You have every right to control how it's used. That evening, I made a decision that should have been obvious years ago. I called the mortgage company and asked to speak to someone about the home loan I was co-signed on. The representative confirmed what Rob had told me. I was listed as the primary responsible party for the loan. So if I wanted to sell that house, I could? As the primary on the loan and with your level of financial contribution, yes, sir, you would have significant say in decisions regarding that property. I'd recommend consulting with an attorney to understand all your options. The next morning, I drove past Marcus and Jennifer's house again. But this time, instead of feeling sad and excluded, I felt something else entirely. I felt powerful. This beautiful house that they lived in, that they used as a backdrop for their perfect family photos, that they borrowed against to fund their lifestyle. I owned it more than they did. The cars in the driveway that they drove to work, to school, to family vacations I wasn't invited to. I had legal claims to both of them. The business that Marcus was so proud of, that he talked about constantly on social media, that gave him the financial credibility to live beyond his means. I was technically a partner in it. For years, I'd been pouring my money and energy into their lives while they treated me like an obligation. But what they didn't realize was that all that financial entanglement gave me something too. It gave me leverage. I sat in my car looking at that house, my house, and started making a mental list. Not of things I wanted to take away from them, but of things I wanted to reclaim for myself. My dignity, my self-respect, my right to be treated like a human being instead of a bank account. And maybe, just maybe, my chance to teach them what it felt like to be abandoned by the people who were supposed to love you. The difference was, they'd earned it. That afternoon, I called Rob and Margaret and scheduled follow-up appointments with both of them. I want to move forward, I told Rob, all of it. I want to reclaim everything I'm legally entitled to. Dennis, are you sure? This will likely end your relationship with your son's family permanently. I thought about my empty birthday party, about years of being ignored except when they needed money, about college funds that were really slush funds, about being described as a problem they needed to get away from. Rob, I said, that relationship ended a long time ago. I was just too stubborn to admit it. I spent the next 2 weeks quietly executing what Rob started calling Project Independence. Every phone call, every document signing, every legal filing was done with surgical precision. I wasn't acting out of rage anymore. This was cold, calculated justice. The first step was the easiest. I walked into my bank and stopped every automatic transfer to Marcus and Jennifer's accounts. The mortgage supplement, the fake college funds, the business loan support, all of it ended with a few signatures. Are you sure about this, Mr. Hartwell? Margaret asked as we finalized the paperwork. Once these transfers stop, they'll notice immediately. I'm counting on it. Next came the house. Rob explained that because I was the primary on the mortgage and had contributed over $70,000 in payments and down payment assistance, I had the legal right to force a sale if the other parties couldn't maintain payments. What will happen when they can't make the mortgage payment next month? I asked. They'll have 30 days to bring it current. If they can't, the bank will start foreclosure proceedings. As the primary, you'd have the option to buy out their interest or force a sale. How much would it cost me to buy them out? Rob did the math. Given their current loan balance and the equity they've borrowed against, probably around $40,000, you'd own the house free and clear. $40,000 to own a $380,000 house. After all the money I'd poured into their lives, it seemed like the least they could do for me. The cars were more complicated but not impossible. The SUV was straightforward since I was listed as the primary owner. I could simply report it as stolen if they refused to return it. Marcus's sedan required a different approach. I stopped making the loan payments and let the bank know I was withdrawing my guarantee. But the real masterpiece was the business. Rob discovered that my various loans to Marcus's consulting firm, combined with the original co-signed loan, actually gave me a controlling interest in the company. Marcus had never bothered to formalize the business structure properly, which meant my financial contributions were legally considered investments rather than loans. So I own his business? 53% of it, based on the financial records you've provided. You could technically fire him from his own company. The irony was beautiful. Marcus thought he was the successful entrepreneur, but he'd built his business entirely on my money without ever acknowledging it. On a Thursday morning, exactly 2 weeks after my abandoned birthday party, I put the final pieces in place. I had the SUV towed from their driveway while they were at work. I filed the paperwork to assume full ownership of the house. I stopped payment on Marcus's business loan and sent notice that I was exercising my rights as majority shareholder. Then I sat back and waited. Marcus called me at 2:47 p.m. I let it go to voicemail. He called again at 3:15, again at 3:22. By 4 p.m., he'd called 8 times. Jennifer started calling at 4:30. Her first message was confusion. Dennis, I think someone stole our car from the driveway. The police said it was repossessed, but that doesn't make sense. Can you call me back? Her second message, an hour later, was panic. Dennis, the bank called. They said something about the mortgage payment being rejected. I don't understand. Please call us back. By 6 p.m., Marcus had left a message that was pure desperation. Dad, I don't know what's happening, but my bank froze the business accounts. They said something about the loan guarantee being withdrawn, and Jennifer's car is gone. and the mortgage company wants to talk to us. Please, just call me back. Whatever's wrong, we can fix it." I poured myself a glass of wine and listened to all 12 messages. Then I deleted them. The next morning they showed up at my front door. I watched through the window as Marcus pounded on the door while Jennifer stood behind him crying. She was holding Emma, who looked confused and scared. Tommy stood next to them, his school backpack still on his shoulders. "Dad, I know you're in there. Open the door. We need to talk." I waited 5 minutes, then opened it. Marcus looked terrible. His hair was messy, his eyes were red, and his clothes looked like he'd slept in them. "What the hell is going on?" "Good morning, Marcus. Jennifer. Children." "Don't give me that calm bullshit," Marcus snapped. "Someone stole Jennifer's car, the bank is threatening to foreclose on our house, and my business accounts are frozen. And somehow it all traces back to you." I stepped aside. "Would you like to come in and discuss this?" They followed me into the living room, the same room where I'd waited for them on my birthday. Jennifer sat on the couch with Emma, while Tommy wandered toward the kitchen. Marcus remained standing, his hands clenched into fists. "I want answers," he demanded. I sat down in my armchair, the one Sarah used to say made me look like a king holding court. "The car wasn't stolen. I repossessed it. I'm the legal owner." Jennifer gasped. "What? That's my car." "Actually, it's not. I bought it, I made all the payments, and my name is on the title. You were just authorized to drive it." Marcus shook his head. "This is insane. You can't just take our car." "I can, and I did. Just like you can't just skip your father's birthday party to go on a vacation funded by money he gave you." The room went very quiet. Even Emma stopped fidgeting. "Is this about the birthday party?" Jennifer asked, her voice small. "This is about 37 years of being taken for granted. This is about being treated like an ATM instead of a father. This is about you calling me a problem you needed to get away from." Marcus's face went pale. "You saw the Facebook post." "I saw everything. The posts, the photos, the life you're living on my money while pretending I don't exist." "Dad, we were going to call." "When?" I interrupted. "When were you going to call? When were you going to invite me to dinner, or ask how I'm doing? Or remember that I exist when you don't need money?" Jennifer started crying harder. "We're sorry. We know we messed up, but taking our car, threatening our house, you're destroying our family." I looked at her for a long moment. "Jennifer, I didn't destroy your family. I built it. I paid for every piece of it. Your house, your car, your husband's business, your children's activities, your vacations, all of it. I was never part of your family. I was just funding it." Marcus slumped into a chair. "What do you want from us?" "Nothing," I said simply. "I don't want anything from you anymore. That's the point. So you're just going to take everything? Leave us with nothing?" "I'm taking back what's mine." "The difference is, when you left me with nothing on my birthday, I didn't deserve it. When I leave you with nothing now, you earned it." Tommy had wandered back from the kitchen and was staring at all of us with wide eyes. For a moment, I felt a pang of guilt. He was innocent in all this. But then I remembered the college funds that weren't really college funds, the money I'd been setting aside for his future that his parents had spent on their present. "Grandpa Dennis," Tommy said quietly, "are you mad at us?" I looked at that little boy, my grandson who barely knew me because his parents never brought him around unless they needed free babysitting, and felt my resolve strengthen. "I'm not mad, Tommy. I'm just tired of being forgotten." Marcus stood up abruptly. "Fine. You want to play hardball? We'll get lawyers. We'll fight this." "With what money?" I asked. "Your business accounts are frozen, your mortgage payment was rejected, and you just lost your primary vehicle. How exactly are you planning to pay for lawyers?" The color drained from his face as the reality hit him. "Besides," I continued, "my lawyer says I have an airtight case. Every dollar I invested, every loan I guaranteed, every payment I made, it's all documented, and it's all legally mine." Jennifer looked up at me through her tears. "So that's it? After everything, after all these years, you're just going to abandon us?" I stood up and walked to the front door, opening it wide. "No, Jennifer," I said quietly. "I'm going to do exactly what you did to me. I'm going to live my life without you in it." They left without another word. I watched through the window as they climbed into Marcus's sedan, the one that would be repossessed within the week, and drove away. For the first time in years, my house felt peaceful. The phone calls started immediately after they left my house. First Marcus, then Jennifer, then numbers I didn't recognize, probably Jennifer's parents and her sister. I let them all go to voicemail. The first few messages were apologetic. Marcus, his voice shaking. Dad, please. We know we screwed up. We can fix this. Just give us a chance to make it right. Jennifer sobbing. Dennis, please don't do this to the kids. They don't understand what's happening. Emma keeps asking why we can't go home. By the weekend, the tone had shifted dramatically. Marcus, angry now. This is ridiculous, Dad. You can't just destroy your own family because your feelings got hurt. Grow up and call me back. Jennifer's sister, a woman I'd met maybe 3 times. This is Carol. I don't know what Marcus and Jen did to you, but punishing innocent children is cruel. You should be ashamed of yourself. The messages got uglier from there. People I barely knew calling me heartless, cruel, vindictive. Jennifer's mother left a particularly nasty voicemail calling me a bitter old man who was destroying his own grandchildren's lives. But the call that finally made me turn off my phone came from someone I didn't expect, my neighbor, Mrs. Patterson. Dennis, dear. Her voice was cautious. I hate to bother you, but Jennifer came by this morning. She was quite upset, crying about you taking their home and car. She asked if I could talk to you, help you see reason. I told her I didn't know what she was talking about, but, well, she seemed desperate. So now they were going door to door in my neighborhood, trying to turn my own neighbors against me. The manipulation had reached a new level. That evening, I was sitting on my back porch when I heard a car pull into my driveway. Through the side gate, I could see it was Marcus's sedan, the one that should have been repossessed by now. He must have caught up on the payments somehow. Marcus appeared at my back gate, but he wasn't alone. Jennifer's father was with him, a man I'd always respected, a retired veteran who'd treated me kindly at family gatherings. Dennis, Mr. Castellano said as they approached. We need to talk. I gestured to the patio chairs. Have a seat. Marcus looked like he hadn't slept in days. His clothes were wrinkled, his face was unshaven, and there was a desperate edge to his movements. Mr. Castellano looked uncomfortable but determined. Dennis, Mr. Castellano began, I've known you for 8 years. You're a good man. This isn't like you. What isn't like me? Standing up for myself. Destroying your son's family over a missed birthday party. I felt my jaw clench. Is that what they told you? That this is about one birthday party? Marcus leaned forward. Dad, look, I admit we messed up. We should have been there. We should have called. But this, taking our house, our car, freezing my business, it's insane. Tell him the rest, Marcus. What? Tell Mr. Castellano how much money I've given you over the past 10 years. Tell him about the mortgage payments, the loan guarantees, the fake college funds. Tell him everything. Marcus shifted in his chair. That's not relevant. It's completely relevant, Mr. Castellano. Did you know I've given them nearly $300,000 over the past decade? Mr. Castellano's eyes widened. 300,000. Did you know I've been making their mortgage payments for 3 years? That I bought Jennifer's car, co-signed Marcus's business loans, and have been funding their lifestyle while they treat me like a stranger? Dad, that's not... Did you know, I continued, that they set up college funds for the kids and asked me to contribute, then immediately transferred that money to their personal accounts for vacations and shopping? Mr. Castellano turned to Marcus. Is this true? Marcus couldn't meet his eyes. It's more complicated than that. No, it's not complicated at all, I said. I've been their personal bank for years, and the only time they remember I exist is when they need more money. Mr. Castellano sat back in his chair, processing this information. After a long moment, he turned to Marcus. Son, you never told us any of this. Because it's not his business. Marcus snapped. What happens between my father and me is private family stuff. Not anymore, I said quietly. You made it public when you started involving neighbors and extended family to pressure me. Jennifer's father looked troubled. Marcus, if Dennis has been supporting you financially to this extent, then you do owe him better treatment than what you've described. We were grateful, Marcus protested. We always said thank you. When? I asked. When were you grateful? When you skipped my birthday to go on a vacation I funded. When you posted about getting away from problems, meaning me. When you refused to answer my calls unless you needed something. The fight seemed to drain out of Marcus suddenly. His shoulders slumped, and for a moment, he looked like the little boy I used to tuck into bed at night. Dad, he said quietly, what do you want? Tell me what you want, and I'll do it. I want you to have wanted me at your table, I said. I want you to have called me just to see how I was doing. I want you to have included me in your lives because you loved me, not because you needed me. Tears started running down Marcus's face. We do love you. No, you don't. You love what I provide. There's a difference. Mr. Castellano cleared his throat. Dennis, I understand you're hurt, and frankly, I'm disappointed in Marcus and Jennifer for taking advantage of your generosity, but surely there's a way to work this out that doesn't involve the children losing their home. I looked at this man I'd grown to respect over the years. Mr. Castellano, let me ask you something. If your daughter treated you the way Marcus has treated me, if she took your money for years while excluding you from her life, if she called you a problem she needed to get away from, what would you do? He was quiet for a long moment. I'd be devastated. And if she only reached out to you when she needed something and ignored you the rest of the time? Another pause. I'd probably cut her off. That's exactly what I'm doing. The only difference is that I have legal claims to recover what I've invested. Marcus wiped his eyes with his sleeve. So there's nothing I can do? Nothing that would make you change your mind? I studied my son's face. For 37 years, I'd loved this man more than my own life. I'd worked extra hours to pay for his college, sacrificed vacations to fund his dreams, and given up my own retirement security to ensure his comfort. And he'd repaid me by treating me like an obligation. Marcus, I said slowly, do you even know what my favorite color is? He blinked. What? My favorite color? Do you know it? He stared at me, confused. Blue? Green. It's always been green. Do you know my middle name? Dad, what does this have to do with? Do you know my middle name? Another long pause. James. William. Do you know when I was diagnosed with diabetes last year? His face went completely pale. You have diabetes? Type 2. I've been managing it with diet and medication for 14 months. You've never asked about my health, so I never mentioned it. Mr. Castellano looked horrified. Marcus, you didn't know your father was sick? He never said anything. Why would I asked. When do we ever talk about anything that isn't related to money or favors you need? The silence stretched on. Finally, Mr. Castellano stood up. Marcus, he said quietly, I think you owe your father more than an apology. I think you owe him a complete change in how you treat him. But it's too late, Marcus whispered. He's already... The house sale is scheduled for next month, I interrupted. The business assets are being liquidated. Your loan guarantees have been withdrawn. It's done. Marcus broke down completely then, sobbing like a child. Please, Dad, please don't do this. I'll be better. We'll include you more. You'll do exactly what you did before, I said sadly. You'll be grateful and attentive until the crisis passes, and then you'll go back to ignoring me until you need something else. That's not true. Marcus, in the past 5 years, how many times have you called me just to chat? How many times have you invited me to dinner? How many times have you asked about my life, my health, my happiness? He couldn't answer because we both knew the number was 0. Mr. Castellano put his hand on Marcus's shoulder. Son, I think we should go. You need to figure out how to take care of your family without Dennis's help. As they walked back toward the gate, Marcus turned around one last time. Dad, he called out, I do love you. I know I haven't shown it, but I do. I looked at my son, this man I'd raised and sacrificed for and lost somewhere along the way. I know you think you do, Marcus, I said, but love isn't a feeling you have. It's a choice you make every day, and for years you've chosen not to love me. I watched them drive away, then went inside and turned my phone back on. There were 43 new messages waiting for me. I deleted them all without listening. 6 months later, I'm sitting on the porch of my new house in Fredericksburg, Texas, watching the sun set over the hill country. It's a smaller place than what I had before. 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, a kitchen just big enough for one person who actually enjoys cooking for himself. The house sale went through exactly as planned. Marcus and Jennifer had to move out with 2 weeks' notice. The business liquidation netted me enough to buy this place outright, with money left over for the first real vacation I'd taken in 20 years. I haven't heard from Marcus in 4 months. The last contact was a text message. Happy Father's Day, Dad. I hope you're satisfied. I was tempted to respond that satisfaction had nothing to do with it, but I deleted the message instead. Some conversations aren't worth having. Jennifer tried a different approach. She sent me a card with Emma's school picture and a note. Emma asks about Grandpa Dennis every day. She doesn't understand why you don't visit anymore. I kept the picture but threw away the note. Emma's 8 years old. She'll adapt and move on, probably faster than the adults will. And maybe, if her parents learn anything from this experience, she'll grow up with a healthier understanding of how family relationships should work. The truth is, I don't miss them. I thought I would. I spent months preparing myself for the loneliness, the regret, the second guessing. But instead of emptiness, I found something I hadn't expected: peace. My days now belong to me. I wake up when I want to, eat breakfast on my porch while reading the newspaper cover to cover. I joined a woodworking club in town and discovered I have a talent for building furniture. Last month, I finished a rocking chair that's so comfortable I fall asleep in it most evenings. I made friends with my neighbor Walt, a retired teacher who lost his wife the same year I lost Sarah. We play chess on Tuesday evenings and argue about baseball statistics. He treats me like a person, not a resource. 3 weeks ago, I met a woman named Dorothy at the library. She was struggling to reach a book on a high shelf, and I helped her get it down. We started talking about books, then about life, then about loss and loneliness, and what it means to start over at our age. She's joining me for dinner tomorrow night. I'm making pot roast, Sarah's recipe, but I'm cooking it for someone who actually wants to spend time with me, not someone who's waiting for the meal to end so they can ask me for money. I think about Marcus and Jennifer sometimes, usually when I'm doing something I enjoy and realize they never cared enough to learn what brought me happiness. I wonder if they had to move in with Jennifer's parents, or if they found some other relative to subsidize their lifestyle. I wonder if Marcus's business survived without my financial backing, or if he had to get a regular job like most people. Mostly, I wonder if they learned anything. Last week I got a letter from Rob, my attorney. Marcus had contacted him, asking about the possibility of reconciliation. According to Rob, Marcus wanted to know what it would take for me to forgive him and restore financial support. Even now, even after losing everything, Marcus still thought this was about money. He still didn't understand that I'd never wanted to buy his love. I'd wanted to earn it by being a good father, and I'd wanted him to give it freely because he valued me as a person. Rob asked if I wanted to respond to Marcus's inquiry. I told him no. There was nothing left to say. The funny thing is, I'm wealthier now than I've been in years. Without the constant drain of supporting Marcus's family, without the mortgage payments and loan guarantees and emergency transfers, my retirement accounts are actually growing instead of shrinking. I could afford a much bigger house, a newer car, expensive vacations, but I don't want those things. I want what I have now, a simple life with people who choose to be in it. This morning I was working in my small garden when the mailman stopped to chat. "You seem different, Mr. Hartwell," he said. "Happier." "I am happier, Tom." "What changed?" I thought about that question while I pulled weeds from around my tomato plants. What had changed was that I'd stopped trying to earn love from people who were incapable of giving it. I'd stopped confusing financial support with emotional connection. I'd stopped accepting crumbs and calling it a feast. I learned the difference between being wanted and being needed. I told Tom. He nodded like that made perfect sense. Yesterday I did something I haven't done in years. I celebrated. Not a birthday or holiday, just a regular Tuesday in October. I drove to the grocery store and bought everything I needed to make a proper dinner for one. A small steak, fresh asparagus, a bottle of wine I'd been saving for no particular reason. I set the table with my good dishes, lit a candle, put on some music Sarah used to love. I cooked slowly, deliberately, enjoying every step of the process. When the meal was ready, I sat down at my table and raised my glass to the empty chair across from me. "Here's to you, Sarah," I said out loud. "You always told me I deserved better. It just took me 40 years to listen." The steak was perfect. The wine was excellent. The silence was comfortable. After dinner, I called my brother in Colorado, a conversation that had nothing to do with money or problems or family drama. We talked about his grandchildren, my woodworking projects, the weather, books we'd been reading. Just two brothers staying connected across the miles. When I hung up the phone, I realized something that would have shocked me a year ago. I was content. Not happy in some dramatic Hollywood way, but genuinely content with my life and my choices. I'd spent decades trying to buy my way into a family that didn't really want me. Now I was building a life with people who did. This afternoon, Dorothy called to confirm our dinner plans. "I'm looking forward to it, Dennis," she said. "It's been a long time since I had dinner with someone who seemed genuinely interested in getting to know me." "The feeling is mutual," I told her. After I hung up, I looked around my small house, at the furniture I'd built myself, at the books I was actually finding time to read, at the photos of Sarah and me from happier times. It wasn't a grand life or an impressive life, but it was mine, and for the first time in years, that was enough. The sun is setting now over the Texas hills, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. In a few hours, I'll go inside and read for a while before bed. Tomorrow, I'll work on a bookshelf I'm building for the local library. Tomorrow evening, Dorothy will come for dinner. Simple plans, quiet pleasures. No drama, no manipulation, no wondering if the people in my life actually care about me. I'm 74 years old, and I'm finally learning what it means to be free. Marcus was wrong about one thing. I'm not satisfied. Satisfaction implies that I got revenge, that I hurt them because they hurt me. What I got was something much better than revenge. I got my life back, and I'm never giving it away again. Now I'm curious about you who listened to my story. What would you do if you were in my place? Have you ever been through something similar? Comment below, and meanwhile, I'm leaving on the final screen 2 other stories that are channel favorites, and they will definitely surprise you. Thank you for watching until here.